listening to the Corner Booth, KORN News Radio. I'm Travis Kriens. Here is, we do get ready not for Mitchell football tonight, but for Mitchell volleyball. It's the only volleyball match in the entire state as Mitchell hosts Sioux Falls, Washington, because, well, this is made up from earlier in the season and because it is quarterfinal night of high school football for all 7 classes. Travis, got Marcus Traxler and Landon Dierks here from the Mitchell Republic. Got a bunch of games here tonight, 56 total games, as by the end of the night we will know next week's semifinal round. We'll talk some Mitchell volleyball, of course. That's coming up here just after 7 o'clock. First serve Mitchell at home tonight. But you take a look at our area teams. We do have a couple of games tonight on KORN Country 92.1 and on Q1073. We'll be looking at the Class 9 AA quarterfinals. Number 1, Marion Freeman Academy taking on the 9-seed Kimball White Lake. That's on KORN Country 92.1 tonight at 7. And then number 3, Parkston. Number 6, Bonhomme. A convincing Parkston victory earlier in the season. This is a rematch. That's at Q1073 tonight with Clinton Greenway at 7 o'clock. Marcus and Landon, there were not a lot of upsets, really. There were only 4 road teams out of the, 32 games last week. 4 road teams won. 2 of them were 9 seeds. And I guess the other 2 double-digit seeds to advance. I don't think a whole lot of people are surprised. I think that Hanson won. Maybe the way Hanson scored was a surprise, but they beat Viborg early, and I don't think a lot of people were stunned that winner defeated Woonsocket Wessington Springs Sanborn Central. So kind of a lack of upsets last week, but 2 double-digit seeds advance. That's all.
Yeah, I think we've kind of seen enough of the 9-man and 11B playoffs in the past to know that there's going to be some lopsided games. There's going to be the predictable top seeds moving on. I do agree with you. I think Hanson over Viborg Hurley, probably the biggest surprise of the first round, and also just how Hanson won the game. When they only had 6, 7, 8 points the first time they played them, they explode for 52. This time, they lead the whole way. Just really impressive, and quite frankly, I didn't know that Hanson had that in him. So to me, it changes the complexion of their matchup with Elkton Lake Benton just a little bit, and if they're able to unlock that offense again, this could be a really competitive game. I agree with you on winner. It was a game I happened to be at last week. And, both teams were kind of feeling each other out for a little while. And, I think the way that Winter was able to they used the pass a little bit to sort of open things up. And then in the second half, they had the lead. They just kept running it like you would expect Winter to run it. And to me, they're maybe the most interesting story. I would say it's probably them and Howard can they make a run here from a really low seed position, considering they're both defending champs.
Landon, thoughts on that opening weekend, again, with those road teams moving on, and we talked a little bit about, Woonsocket, Wessington Springs, Sanborn Central, and their propensity to turn the ball over defensively, and that didn't really seem to happen these past 2 weeks, losing to MVP there at the regular season, getting blown out 30-6, and I guess kind of, a real disappointing season for a team that maybe had hopes of maybe at least going to the semis.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the position you put yourself in when you don't take care of business. I know that might seem a little harsh, but if they win that game against MVP in the last week of the regular season, we're not having this discussion. They have a better seed. They have a more favorable matchup. You lose that game, you drop to the 6. The 11 seed is obviously lower than the 6, but we see 10, 11 seeds win in this with some regularity. So you just kind of set yourself up poorly from that perspective. If you're the Bucks, I don't think it takes away from them. They had a good season. They just didn't have a great season.
And they didn't, of any team you can play, you don't want to play Winter again. Yep. You don't want to have to take another crack at them. I don't know how many turnovers they had against MVP, but I believe they were -2 in the turnover margin last week against Winter, and I know they lost the turnover margin against Mount Vernon Plank. So as we talked, it's we've seen that time and time, college, pro, high school, that turnover margin streak, if it's riding really well, if it stops at some point, you're going to be in trouble if you're not able to sort of compensate for that. And unfortunately for the Bucks, they do bow out. I hate to say that I was right, because I think when we talked about this a couple weeks ago,
you put them on alert,
thinking, okay, this is maybe not sustainable the rest of the postseason.
Am I nuts here to think Winter's going to the championship again?
I'm not there yet, but this is a very good matchup for them.
Favorable matchup, a 3-seed Clark Willow Lake tonight.
Clark Willow Lake, aside from Sioux Valley duel, they played Mobridge Pollock too, right? Clark Willow Lake did. Those are the only 3 teams they've played that have been decent. Everybody else has been pretty lousy. And so I this is a big-time challenge. Winter, early in the season, was not playing like the Winter we would expect. They are a lot closer to that now. They're still not as good as they were last season. I don't think that's fair to say. They had 18 seniors leave, but they have found an identity, and I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Clarkwell Lake to step up and punch them in the mouth. They're going to have to come out and get a lead early. Otherwise, the longer you let Winter hang around, the tougher it's going to be.
We had so much fun with this last week. I should bring it up again. We talked about the computer simulations and the Mass C ratings last week. The computer went 31 for 32. The only game it got wrong was Viborg Hurley over Hansen, and that was a 60-40 game in the computer's mind, so not super egregious there. A week ago, when I ran the simulation, it had Winter beating Clark Willow Lake 18-14.
Do they have updated rankings here?
I ran all the numbers again this week, as I do.
Any upsets, I guess, so you want to start with 11B?
And now it has Clark over Winter by a point.
That's interesting.
14-13 by 53% certainty.
I think
so. The narrowest of margins.
I think the first to 20 wins this game. I mean, I don't see there being a ton of points to Massey's point, your point, and I think if Winter can lock them down on defense, they're going to have a great chance to pull this upset.
And Elk Point Jefferson, the 1 seed, the only team to be within closer than 15 of EPJ all year long was Winter. Mm-hmm. That was a 20-8 win during September 12th. So, I mean, it's a long ways away yet. Winter's got to get there. But like we said, you got to beat them. They lost 4 games. You can kind of look back now at who Winter played, who they lost to, and you kind of reevaluate, okay, they didn't score as many points as they usually do. They lost 14 points to Wagner. Wagner's still around. 12-point loss to the 1 seed EPJ, which blew out everybody this year. 2 touchdown loss to Woonsocket, and then they lost 14-6 to MVP. But since then, they've won 3 in a row.
Travis, I was at the game, and we kind of knew, okay, if Winter wins the game, probably going to write a story about just their season to this point. And I talked to a couple players. I talked to Trent Olson, and I wanted to ask, like, well, what has it been like in Winter this year? And the way they described it, and I feel like I can speak a little more free here than I would in the story, it felt like Friday Night Lights, where everybody's kind of looking at this great program saying, why aren't you guys as good as the team last year? Or why aren't you as good as the 9-10 teams that have won titles before? And they basically said it's hard for the players to go out in public. It's hard for the coaches to go out in public. That's probably
crazy.
It's probably one of the best answers I've gotten in a long time of just like, this is what it's actually like to be in Winter and to deal with that pressure. And I have no doubt that it's true. And it was really insightful, and I think it gives us, a perspective we don't often see. And I think it's, we sometimes, clean up the image of what high school football feels like. But in a place like Winter, where it's very much a part of who they are, they expect to win. And I think once they kind of release themselves from, hey, don't worry about what the outside expectations are. You guys are capable. Just have to go make it happen. They've won 3 games in a row.
You originally posed the question, are you crazy for thinking Winter can get back to the title game? Well, you look at the 3 other teams left with them in that lower part of the bracket. Clarkwell Lake, we expect that to be a low-scoring game. They're going to be in it. MVP, team they're intimately familiar with, that'll probably be a low-scoring game if they played them. They're going to be in it. And then we've seen pass-heavy teams fall into a trap against Winter before, like high-powered offenses that lean a little more toward the pass-heavy side, like St. Thomas More does. Again, they just kind of fall into a trap where all of a sudden you get a couple quick 3-and-outs. Yeah. Winter might have a short field or 2. They get on top of you, and then you're really pressing.
And it's been like 2 quarters since you had a decent drive, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is hard. We're in now. The catch of that is you're not playing in Winter. A lot of times when you're on the road, when you're there, it's like, oh man, this is snowballing on us. The game would be out in Rapid City. I think it would be an immense challenge, but similar to what I just said about Clarkwell Lake, St. Thomas More played Sioux Valley, Mount Vernon playing in Chamberlain. They played Hot Springs twice towards the end of the year. The other teams they have played have not been very good.
I believe they had, for a long time, they had the lowest strength of schedule in 11B. I don't know if they finished there, but...
And against a lot of those teams, they had 6 shutouts, and then they gave up 7 last week to Hot Springs. So the caliber of opponent has not been there. Winter and St. Thomas More play in almost every other sport. Football, they've not played as much.
Last year, semis, they knocked them out 36-0.
That's right. Yep.
So, I mean, 2 different teams, but that history is there. Very well could be a Winter St. Thomas More semifinal rematch next week.
I guess just to put the bow on what I was trying to allude to there, there's not any of these three teams that like Winter is incapable of beating. So no, you are not crazy, Trav. They have good a shot as anybody, I think.
I think the two teams that are most dangerous to Winter are Elk Point Jefferson and Wagner, and they're on the other side of the bracket. So that's my read on it.
And EPJ, it was a 20-8 loss, and that's, or I guess, it was a 12-point loss to EPJ. You take a look at the rest of the 11B bracket. I'm intrigued here by Sioux Valley and Elk Point Jefferson. Sioux Valley, the 8 seed, probably didn't do as well as people thought preseason, and then you have Elk Point Jefferson at 8-0, and they just met a few weeks ago, and this was a fairly competitive game, 41-26. It was at EPJ. They met just 2 weeks ago, so you look at those first-round matchups, and there were a lot of rematches, and some of not all of them went the way of the first meeting. How do you size up the chance for a 1 seed here to go down? Can Sioux Valley pull off a pretty big upset?
I think we're going to talk about a lot of games that we expect to be closer than we think, or a lot of games that we think are going to be super competitive. I think Elk Point Jefferson is going to win this game by more than the 15 points they won the first one by. I think they're extremely good team. We've talked about that all season, and I'm guessing they want to prove a point this time around. You got to remember also last year Sioux Valley won the semifinal game against them 28-14. That was a different Sioux Valley team. I think this is a different EPJ team as well. They have the number 1 scoring offense, almost 44 points a game. I expect we will see something emblematic of that in this game.
I think EPJ is a pretty large favorite to win the whole thing. And I just don't see them losing this early.
Who would they play? It's the 4-seed Dual, 5-seed Wagner. I like Wagner again, kind of like Clark Willow Lake. Who did Dual play this year? They were 8-1. That one loss coming to Clark Willow Lake. Other than that, they didn't really play anybody this year. So they get past McCook Central Montrose last week, 36-20. MCM played with them for a little bit as a 13, but I would say this would be one where I like the road team in Wagner to head up north and win.
I agree. I think Dual had a really good start to the season. They started 6-0, and these last few games have been tougher. I think you never want to simplify the game too much, but if Gannon Abel can have the type of game that he's been having the last much of the season, he's averaging 4 touchdowns a game. He's got 36 for the season. If he's able to do that, Wagner's going to win this game and get a rematch with Elk Point Jefferson.
Rematch in late August, Landon. It's MVP going to St. Thomas More for the second time this season. First meeting was a 29-8 win for St. Thomas More. So this kind of reminds me of that first Hanson game for Viborg Hurley where there was a 3-touchdown difference. Can MVP score enough points? Can they score enough points to keep up here with St. Thomas More?
Well, they scored a lot of points last week.
They did.
We haven't seen that a ton from MVP this year, but I do feel like they've played much better football the last month of the season, and that's obviously why they've won, is it 4 or 5 in a row now? 4. And, that's why they're in the position they're in. They were going to be a low seed going on the road in the first round. Instead, they're the 7. So they really kind of turned their season around right after that midway point. And so I do think they have, a puncher's chance in this one, especially if they can kind of slow the game down a little more and play it at their pace and the way they want to. I was there for a fleeting moment against Mobridge Pollock last week.
Just a speckle in time.
It was, because I had to get back here to Mitchell for the Colonel game. But, that game went, they traded scoring drives very early, and just as the game went on, MVP kind of wore them down and pulled away for a really quite convincing win over a Mobridge Pollock team that was good for most of the year.
They got a couple stops to kind of widen that game out, and that made a big difference. I think, we just mentioned that St. Thomas More had this run of shutouts. They have the lowest or the best scoring defense in this class. MVP has a top 5 defense. They were the lowest of the teams left in scoring offense. But they've just exploded for 30 points and 40 points. So I feel like they're not playing like the team that they were for much of the season. They're running the ball exceptionally well these last 4 games. Can they do that against St. Thomas More in what might be a shootout? Last year when they played each other, it was 38-34, and they weren't able to get the offense going in the matchup earlier in this season. So I think if they're able to run the ball, and like you just said about a potential winner matchup, if MVP can lay out any level of pass defense and slow St. Thomas More down, they have a chance to win this game. I think St. Thomas More is going to win, but I would not be surprised if the Titans go out and get that victory.
Again, a lot of it, this is, competition. Who did you play? Did you play anybody in the regular season? Because now you are playing maybe the best team you've played up to this point, and you could maybe say that with St. Thomas More. The two best teams they played were their first 2 weeks. They played Sioux Valley and MVP. They won by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and they didn't really play anybody or leave the western side of the state after that. So this is a huge jump in competition. When you're playing, Lee Deadwood, you're playing Lakota Tech every week, and all of a sudden you're playing a team, maybe a top 5 team in this class. It's been a long time since St. Thomas More has seen a team, anywhere close to this.
I think there's just a huge mental thing of are they going to be ready to play to start the game? Exactly as you're saying we've walked through every team we've played for 2 months. Now we see somebody that might be willing to punch us in the mouth. If that happens, if MVP just goes right down the field and scores and it's 8-0 right away, how will St. Thomas More respond? And so, and the same could be said, if St. Thomas More goes down the field and punches MVP in the mouth. But I think it's one of those things where when you have a long lull, like you're saying, of, wow, we have not been challenged in a month and a half, 2 months, all of a sudden that first snap back to reality can be a tough matchup.
Just to give the Cavaliers a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, it's not like they've struggled with any of those teams they've played along the way, though. They've done what you need to do if you're the better team, and they've largely taken care of business. Really, Hot Springs is the only other team that's played with them, and we know Hot Springs has a good coaching staff that gets those kids ready to go. I know they probably the 15 seed that's what it ended up as. So not a great team, but I think Hot Springs was probably from the 12 seed on down the best of that group.
I think also, we remember coming into the season, preseason polls are what they are, but we remember that St. Thomas More over Sioux Valley win being a big win right off the bat. And it didn't end up aging that way because of what Sioux Valley did this season. But that was a really impressive start to the season, and they have not had any reason.
Was that game in Volga, Travis?
Looking at St. Thomas More's
first game against...
I would doubt it, but we will see. It was not. It was in Rapid City. Yeah, I don't think.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, St. Thomas More, but they don't have to leave. I don't think they made a East River trip this year.
They came to Chamberlain, so technically just over the river.
Yeah, they were feet from.
They played in Oklahoma.
They were feet away. Again, Class 11B quarterfinals. Again, Wagner and MVP, 2 area teams on the road tonight. That MVP team 1-4, and now they've turned it around, 4 straight wins as they take on St. Thomas More for the second straight time. 9-man Class 9AA is where you had 2 road teams win last week. Can anybody explain Hanson's 52 points over Viborg Hurley? 52-34. This was 28-6 2 weeks ago. This was a massive turnaround offensively for the Beavers.
Were they sandbagging on the first time?
Apparently. We might see this team in a couple weeks. 52 points for Hanson.
Certainly, I think we would all say that the coaching staff for Hanson over there is quality. So you give them one look at a team and you have to turn around and play them again basically right away. They obviously made some quality adjustments because you don't just walk out and score 46 more points. Mm-hmm. I just think that Hanson has got some really quality athletes. It's about kind of getting them all involved in the game plan. I was kind of surprised maybe the first time that they only scored 6 points, and so I'm not I'm surprised they scored 52, but I'm not surprised they scored significantly more than
kind of
6.
Surprised they gave up 34. They gave up 28 the first time, but they gave up over 60 points in these 2 meetings to Viborg Hurley.
And Brady Schroedermeyer, the quarterback, going to go to STSU, had 5 touchdowns. He threw 3 interceptions in that game, and that decides a playoff game. I think if you're Viborg Hurley, you're definitely shaking your head saying, how did we give up 52 points when we held them in check the first time? I agree with what Landon said. Hanson is at their best when they're able to do everything on offense, run and pass, and they've had moments this season where they haven't been able to do all that. And so to be able to unlock that against Viborg Hurley, a team that's a little bit more willing to get up and down, is a good sign for them. I don't know how that translates to Elkton Lake Benton, who I think is better up front, and so that's going to be a big challenge for them to find the offensive success again.
Second straight year that Hanson has advanced as a double-digit seed. They were 11 seed last year, beat TDA ACDC.
I was there.
You were there. You remember?
I do.
Because you were there.
Gone but not forgotten.
Parkson beat Bonhomme earlier 70-21, so on paper that would appear to be significant blowout for Parkston. We'll see what happens second time around. Then Freeman has rolled most teams as they take on Kimball White Lake. Good win for Kimball White Lake, 14-7, beating Britton Hecla on the road. But
gave up a first drive touchdown.
Shut them out after that.
Shut them out the rest of the way.
You look at Hamlin, though. I think a lot of people expect Hamlin to go out to Hill City and win that one. Could be a couple blowouts in 9AA, but how do you size up Hamlin making a long drive? The longest of drives, I would have to imagine.
Wow.
My
Travis,
God.
you have a saying for these types of games.
Get the hell out of here.
About Hill City. You would say this is a show-me-something game.
Show me. Beat Hamlin, boys.
You got Hamlin coming all the way out to you, 350, 400 miles, whatever it is. 411. Coming to the hills, Smokey the Ranger, you got to play him. This is your chance. Hill City has had some heavy scoring games. I think there's probably one or two games here of these ones that we're talking about where we're pretty sure that it's going to go a certain way, and one of these is going to zig in another direction. This might be it. I think Hamlin, they have been exceptionally good on the road, 12-1 in the last 3 years on the road. They do not give up a lot of points, 8.3 points a game. Defense travels. That's the cliche. So can Hamlin's defense put Hill City in check? I think they probably can, but I'd be a little wary here. This might be where that upset where Hill City wins this game.
We're recording this on Thursday morning. I posed this question to Marcus yesterday, Travis. Do you think those Hamlin boys even had to show up to class today?
No.
Or did they show up to the school to hop on the bus?
I think the bus left at 8 a.m. and they're making the trek out. Are they stopping in Wall and getting a walkthrough? And that's the real question. So
it's a pier somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
But they've got the turf. Wall's got the turf,
Oh, I've heard about that, yeah. Wall at home tonight versus Castlewood.
Do your walkthrough on the Four Corners baseball field.
They should. Oh,
do
man,
it at L's Oasis. Do it
in
at
the parking lot, yeah.
Do it at Wall Drug. 9AA, again, we have the Freeman Kimball White Lake game on Corn Country, Parks and Bonhomme, Q107 at 7 o'clock.
Kimball White Lake, they are maybe the team that I think of the most of. They have to play the game a certain way. So exactly as you were saying about Britton Hecla, got to play at a low-scoring game. Freeman Marion Freeman Academy is exceptionally high-powered, and I think it's going to be really tough for Kimball White Lake to tamp that game down if they are. Both these teams on 4-game winning streaks, but Freeman Marion Freeman Academy, they've beaten all these teams by 35 or more, and so that's going to be a big challenge for Kimball White Lake, the only team to win a road game last week. See if they can do it again here on Thursday night.
Corner Booth being brought to you by Jimmy John's here in Mitchell, also James Valley Landscape Solutions and Marlin's Family Restaurants. No upsets last week in 9A. All the top 8 seeds advance. Number 7 Howard is at the 2 seed Warner, and number 6 Platte Geddes going to Alcester Hudson tonight. And I said last week I think Warner is primed for an upset, and if it's going to happen, I think it's going to happen here. Give me Howard as a 7 seed advancing over undefeated Warner tonight. Again, a different level of competition, I think, here for Warner.
The computer says...
What do they got?
Number 7, Howard, 35. Number 2, Warner, 21.
Yeah,
not even close.
73% confident.
Computer likes Howard, yeah.
Computer really likes Howard.
Do you like Howard?
I do. I like Pat Rummel and crew. How about that? I tend to think these teams are a little more evenly matched than maybe what the computer says, but... To your point, I do think this will be the best team that Warner has seen all season long. I think Howard, even though they tripped up against Viborg Hurley late in the season, I think they've been playing some pretty good ball. I don't know. I tend to err on the side of teams that have showed me something recently and been there and done that. And I know this Howard team looks a lot different than last year's Howard team, but basically until they lose in the postseason, I'm gonna stick with the Tigers.
This game, to me, comes down to what happens when Howard has the ball. Warner has given up less than 16 points for most of the season, going back 6-7 games.
Total.
Has not allowed more than 16 points in that time.
In a game.
This game was a 27-point game last year. I believe they played it in Howard in the semifinals. I agree with Landon. It has to be closer than that, at least in theory, because of what Howard lost, and Warner has the experience. But this is a team, as Landon just said, immense, at least as a program, immense experience. This is the 9th time in a row they're playing in the quarterfinal round, Howard. They have an exceptionally good running back in Colt Becker, 21 touchdowns. They found a way to block for him, I think, a little bit more consistently. You're seeing this Howard team run their offense better. I do think Howard is going to win this game.
Warner's played 3 good teams, and they were all close games. So when they play a good team, they beat them. Beat Falkton by 3, beat Ipswich by 6, and beat Castlewood by 9 points. So when they played good teams, they've won, but they've been pretty close to one-score games. And then if Howard wins, they could play Alcester-Hudson, and they lost at Alcester-Hudson the first week of the season. So if Alcester-Hudson can get past Platt, looking ahead towards potential rematches where first game of the season, last game of the season for one of these two teams, that possibility is out there.
We talked about the 11B with Winner and MVP and STM. This little 4-team group might be as interesting as any here in 9A. Like you mentioned, Howard and Warner, Platt Geddes against Alcester-Hudson. I think I could see it being any of the matchups. I don't think it's impossible that we could see any of the potential semifinal matchups there. I think Platt Geddes, this is a immense chance for them to prove how much they've improved over the season. Alcester-Hudson's going to be a really tough team. Neither of these teams have lost to anybody in this class this year. Platt Geddes' loss were to teams in 9AA, and Alcester-Hudson lost to Del Rapids St. Mary, and they also lost to Freeman Mary and Freeman Academy. So I'm really interested in Alcester-Hudson. We've talked about teams that have not played a tough schedule. Alcester-Hudson has played the toughest schedule of anybody in this class. So I do think Alcester-Hudson probably wins, but I'd be thrilled to see Platt Geddes make this a game and potentially advance.
One interesting note I have on the computer side of things. A week ago, the computer had Alcester-Hudson 28-22 over Platt with 61% certainty. This week, 34-20 Alcester-Hudson with 74%. So it grew 13% more confident in the Cubs, which was the most of any.
What would cause that after just one game?
It's a heck of a question.
I don't know what would cause that after one game. Wall's your 1 seed versus the 8 seed Castlewood. I suppose Castlewood is good as an 8 seed as you could maybe have, and then Ipswich goes to Phillip.
I think in normal circumstances we would flag this as East River team going west. Watch out for Castlewood, but I think everybody in this room thinks Wall is exceptionally good, and I'm not flagging this one as an upset.
No,
I don't think Wall's exceptionally good.
I think
they've proven, and we know that they're exceptionally good.
I do like to draw the trend lines going back, multiple years. Wall is 49-4 in the last 4 seasons going into this game. 49 wins in 4 seasons is incredible, and they have
all those losses in playoff games,
and they've also had one game this year that I believe was not a mercy rule game, the very first game of the year, and then the rest.
They only beat Phil by 48.
Yeah, so everything else has been 50-pointer, which I would think means they haven't played a full game in that time.
Yeah, probably not.
They haven't allowed a point since September 26th.
Class 9B quarters, Corsica Stickney was the road team to win. They won at number 8 Kadoka area 38-36. Jaguars. They move on to take on Del Rapids St. Mary. That's a 3 o'clock start, so that's already happened. We'll see what happens there. Fulton and Sully Buttes, though, intriguing matchup, 4 versus 5. Sully Buttes won at Fulton earlier this year, 30-22. Your game of the week in 9B to see you could potentially take on St. Mary's. Should be a good one tonight as they travel back to Fulton for the second straight time.
I think this is one of those games where almost anything could happen. I could see a Fulton blowout. I could see a Sully Buttes blowout. A close game seems like the most likely. These two teams know each other super well. Sully Buttes went on the road in the quarters last year, won, then ended up getting a home game because Canastota beat Avon. And so I don't think they're probably going to get that lucky this time, but they know Fulton extremely well. So this, I don't know exactly who's going to win. I tend to think Fulton just because they've played a tougher schedule and they are at home, but we'll see.
I think, obviously, if there's a lean in the motivation factor, if you want to call it that, it's got to be in favor of the Trojans, right? Having come up short in the Dome a year ago, having got beat by a score to the Sully Buttes team earlier this year. I mean, but I agree with Marcus. I don't really have a great read on this game. I think just about anything could happen. I will not be surprised whatever the score comes through as tonight. I think just like you, Marcus, I would lean Fulton if you made me pick it, but I'm not super confident about it. The computer is 75% confident. Fulton 34, Sully Buttes 20.
Thanks, computer.
I'll go Buttes. Give me the Buttes.
Yeah.
Pick up a road one.
Heart of a champion. They know what it takes.
That's right. I do think
it's really interesting they won it from the same position a year ago. I know that that's just like a coincidence thing, and there's nothing really to it, but I don't know.
I mean, if we're going to be honest, I don't remember the exact complexion of the season last year, but the 5 seed was probably a little bit more justified. I feel like they should have been higher than a 5 seed this year. They had one loss that they would probably love to have back, but I expected this team to have home field throughout the postseason, and that didn't end up happening. So I wonder what kind of motivation there is for them, thinking we should not even have to be going on the road. Mm-hmm. So we already beat this team on this field. So
they finished 2 games better than they did. Silly Buttes was 8-1. You beat Fulton 6-3, and Silly Buttes has to go on the road. So
that's what strength of schedule. It kind of matters. And I know you can only play the schedule in front of you, but Sully Buttes' schedule was exceptionally weak.
Compared side by side, there is no comparison.
Avon against Sioux Falls Lutheran. Lutheran, we'll call them Lou. They won their playoff game, and
just call them SFL. There's no other SFL to.
No, we call them.
There's not Sioux Falls Lincoln or anything like that.
No.
They're going from the Lou to Avon, and they're going to go past the big pirate ship on the way, I would assume. And
Shiver me timbers.
They are in the playoffs for the very first time. Sioux Falls Lutheran have never made it. Avon has home field for the 4th time in 5 years, and they went out in the quarterfinals last year. What kind of motivation is there for Avon to prove that this is a different team? This was also a game that was played earlier this season, 62-20, when Avon won the first time. So I would expect Avon to win, but you never know, I guess.
And then Harriet Selby area.
That's a trenches game for me.
I would think so.
Just a program that's new and maybe he doesn't have its feet fully underneath it yet against a team that, I mean, is as big as any 9B team I have ever seen up front. They are huge. The Avon Pirates.
Landon and I were talking about 9-man lines yesterday that are small. We remembered Howard a few years ago. They had a 155-pound center. Avon does not have that problem. Avon is big, and we may be sitting at the Dakota Dome in 2 weeks, and we look back and like, how did we not see it clearer? So Landon might be getting out ahead of it there by pointing that out again, of just like they have an offensive line and defensive line that
there are a whole bunch of maulers.
Nobody else has that in this class, and that may ultimately be the difference, because you have to remember, and at least this is probably not fair, but this is my belief, I think a lot of the skill position players are kind of about the same. Your running backs and your wide receivers, your wing backs, if you're running the wing T, they're about the same. The offensive line, that's different with Avon.
They might not have an Isaiah Meyer in the back, like a super, super dynamic athlete. They got a whole bunch of capable ball carriers and a line that creates holes that, any of us could run through.
In retrospect, it's kind of stunning Avon didn't put Isaiah Meyer on the line, because he was 6'4" and a monster too, because they could have had the line of...
But they said, this kid runs like a 4.5 40. We should probably put him in the back.
Kind of runs like a deer.
Harriet Selby area 6, Coleman Egan 3. I kind of like Harriet Selby area here. I like a couple of these road teams in 9B. There's got to be upsets in 9B. There weren't many last week.
When Marcus and I talked about this game immediately, or maybe it was just earlier this week. I thought it was maybe immediately after the pairings. Do we know anything about this matchup, Travis? Like, these are two teams that are just completely off of my radar.
Harriet Selby got purple. It's always good to see a purple team in there.
That's great analysis right there,
and
folks.
They have the Michigan helmet that they've adapted. Coleman Egan for a while there was a really good 9-man program.
They were the class of 9B, really.
They snuck up on folks.
They started 0-3, and then they haven't lost since. And they played some really tough teams. They played Del Rapids St. Mary early on. They played Avon early on. And then you've got Harriet Selby that I think this is their 6th time in 7 years they've made it this far. And so I think this will be the game. I really don't know what's going to happen. I think Harriet Selby probably is going to win this. To what Travis said, we're due for some upsets. It's not going to be chalk. It's not going to be 1 versus 2 in every championship game at the Dome. So where are those changes going to happen? I think Harriet Selby, the Wolverines, get a victory here.
Pulled it out of the hat. I bet the last time they met was on the Dana J. Dykehouse turf in 2019.
That's right. That was the matchup.
For the 9B title. That just occurred to me.
Coleman Egan started 0-3. They had to play Avon, Canastota, and St. Mary's, 3 really good teams, and they've gone 6-0 since then. So a 6-game winning streak for Coleman Egan. Your 9-man playoffs, again, most of those kickoffs at 7, a couple of 6 o'clock kickoffs there as well. We'll keep you updated on those scores here throughout the night. Because there's no other volleyball games to talk about. It's Mitchell and Washington in a makeup game here, so it's all going to be football scores. And then when we return, we'll take a look at those other 11-man classes. AA, what a damn thing that is. Ain't that right? AA, that playoff bracket. We'll see what happened there. Final week of the season, some big changes for how the bracket ended up in AA. That's coming up next year. We're just 90 seconds away. It's the KORNer booth being brought to you by Marlin's Family Restaurant, James Valley Landscape Solutions, and Jimmy John's of Mitchell.
Feeling hungry but not sure what for? The buffet at Marlin's is the perfect choice. So many mouth-watering options, everyone will find something they crave, and no one leaves hungry. Marlin's offers a breakfast buffet on Saturdays and Sundays, 7 to 2, a lunch buffet Monday through Fridays from 11 to 2, then a dinner buffet Friday and Saturday from 5 to 9. And don't forget, kids eat free on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's Marlin Family Restaurant in Mitchell.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
Fall isn't the end of the growing season. It's the beginning of next year's beautiful landscape. At James Valley Garden Center, they make fall planting easy. Trees, shrubs, perennials, they all take root better in cool weather, and their team is ready to help you with expert advice. James Valley Garden Center is your local trusted partner for all things outdoors, season after season. James Valley Garden Center at 600 West Spruce. Let's go outside.
KORNer Booth pregame show continues here, KORN News Radio. Mitchell volleyball coming up here just after 7 o'clock tonight. So Mitchell at home versus Sioux Falls, Washington. We take a look, though, at the quarterfinals playoffs here tonight. Travis, Marcus, and Landon. We take a look at our beloved Class 11 AA. Mitchell football, they're done. Second straight 1-8 season as they lost to Yankton last week, 40-7 to wrap up their campaign. But a little bit of a shakeup as far as the seeds and the bracket of AA, thanks to Brookings knocking off Huron last week. Those teams seem destined to play again this week, no matter what happened in that game. Either Huron was going to win, we were going to get a 1-8 matchup, but Brookings knocks off Huron. So team moves down, team moves up a spot, and we get a 2-7 matchup. A rematch this time, though, the game in Huron this week, and 22-14 was your final. Do you put Huron on upset alert here again tonight? Big nod of the head, yes. I think a lot of people like Brookings to kind of knock off the Tigers here for the second week in a row.
I don't know if I like Brookings to win, but
you wouldn't be stunned.
You'd be foolish not to put Huron on upset alert, given that they just lost to them.
You're legally obligated to
I think you are. I mean, it is what it is. If you're Huron, and we've talked in the last couple of weeks about how this is their first 7-win season in at least 2 decades. You know, they have all these things going. I know they had that dome appearance in there, but this is maybe the best season you've had in who knows how long, probably in at least my lifetime. And now you lose your last week of the regular season, and the team that just beat you, you have to play them again just to extend your season. That's not an enviable spot. I kind of thought that the way this shook out is really tough for Huron because it's 3 teams that I think are certainly capable of beating the Tigers in their half of the bracket.
Last week I was talking about the odds, the overall odds.
How are the odds this week?
To win the title. I didn't get Ken Pomeroy to calculate the complete tournament odds, but we were talking about how much easier their path was when they were going to be the 1 seed. It's exponentially more difficult now. They got to play a team they just lost to in Brookings in the first round. If they win, they have to play P or T. I don't think they want to play T either. And then if they get to the championship, they're probably going to run into Yankton. So that's an immensely difficult schedule. I think of the 2 teams in this rematch, I think Huron's probably a little bit more excited about this game because they can look at Brookings and say, all right, we saw what we did wrong. We got this game back at home. Let's see if we can correct this. But Gerald County and Beetle County are right next to each other, and there might be some Bucks Huron vibes here of things kind of spiraling here at the end of the season for Huron because they were looking great there for a while, and now
Woonsocket, Washington Springs, Seymour Central Bucks, not Yankton Bucks.
That's right.
Clear.
So I think it's going to be, I don't know, Huron, much like Woonsocket, Washington Springs, plays a certain type of game, and that does leave you open, I think, to get beat from time to time.
Huron, my goodness. You liked Brookings early on. They were a top 5 team, maybe a team that could compete with Yankton and Pierre, and they lost to Sturgis beginning of the season out there by 5, and kind of
more competitive than Yankton against Sturgis.
It was stinky Yankton. Then they lost to Pierre by 3, and they played a lot of close games. They lose to Yankton by 7, so all of a sudden this 8 seed, now 7 seed Brookings, I mean, they played Pierre and Yankton, within 3 and 7 points. So you look at this Brookings team, like they were
super
very
hard to
under,
read,
very
super
under the
hard to
radar.
read.
Those close. I did not factor in, how close those games were against those top 2 teams in the class, to where it's like, hey, they could maybe make a run here late in the season, and they have.
I think Brookings also has the best senior in this class.
Yep.
In Tetzlaff, and
certainly an argument. Yeah.
So there's a big advantage for them there. I think for as much talk as we talked about how to rank these teams throughout the last few weeks, I think the order it ended up being in feels about right in how they ended up being seated, except for the middle, Landon, because in the middle there was a big problem here. He doesn't want to address it.
What is this?
Spearfish?
Okay. If you go
how the tiebreaker was handled.
How the tiebreaker, the 3-way tie between Sturgis, Watertown, and T was handled. Doesn't make any sense to me. Travis, if you go back to that bracket, it'll tell you how it was handled.
Because you had Sturgis, T, and Watertown all 5 and 4. They all had the same seed points. Watertown beat both of these teams.
Yes.
Watertown did not win this tiebreaker.
Because apparently head-to-head is not the number 1 tiebreaker if you have a 3-way tie.
You go based on how you did against the 1 seed, the 2 seed.
Which is weird to me, because you'd think that just in the scenario we have here, where one of the teams did beat the other 2, which isn't always going to be
that rarely
the case,
happens. I think that's why this is set up the way it is.
Which they might have to address. Yeah. Usually you see, Team A beats Team B, who beats Team C, and then Team C turns around, beats Team A. I get that. The triangular.
It's very rare there's a 3-way tie, and very rare that all of these teams are going to play each other, and that one of the teams beat the other 2. Yes. That should be the tiebreaker, but it wasn't.
Yeah, so it's just really interesting when you look at because the SCHSA, credit to them, they do list out how they break ties when they have to. And so it's Sturgis Brown over Watertown by virtue of Sturgis's win over Yankton, because Watertown lost to Yankton. And then the very next tiebreaker, Watertown gets the 5 seed over T because Watertown beat T. Yeah. Well, Watertown also beat Sturgis, so you'd like to see that as the tiebreaker. And it's particularly big here because that's not a short trip. We talked about Hamlin to Hill City. It's almost as long here. It's got to be at least 350 miles from Watertown to Sturgis. And so you'd probably like that on the new turf in Watertown if you're the Arrows. Well, you got to get on the bus about right now and hit the road.
It's the proper tiebreaker when you have a multiple team tiebreaker.
Absolutely.
Except you have to have head-to-head needs to be in there first. Head-to-head if everybody's played each other. And
they did.
I think I'm always interested because the football advisory committee meets right after the season, and they always argue about all kinds of stuff, and it seems like nothing ever gets decided. They need to advance this forward to say this needs to be the number 1 tiebreaker if we're going to have a multi-team tie first, because there's no question Watertown got jobbed on that.
They did. Watertown needed 4 overtimes to beat Aberdeen.
Do we all agree?
Overtime.
We all agree on another thing. That's good.
I don't know why
this is unbelievable considering our recent form.
3-way tie. Watertown, I thought they'd be a little better at Aberdeen, but they go 4 overtimes. They ended up beating Aberdeen 33-27. And almost that.
We've seen Aberdeen's a trap for teams.
Well, and this is why I'm not as crazy about Watertown as you've been.
I'm crazy about the Arrow. They should have been the 4 seed in this tournament.
They should have been. There's no questioning that.
So this loss would have dropped him down to a 6. So that would have been an important win there, at least and then you go to Pierre, which is no good. So at least Watertown wins. Again, they won 3 in a row, and they have to make the long trip to Sturgis, which I don't feel as good about. If they would have had to play like T, that would have been nice. But Watertown at Sturgis tonight.
5 of their last 6 games they've won, Watertown has. So they've figured some stuff out here in the second half of the season.
Am I crazy to say that? I think, I would push back on what Travis just said. I think you'd rather play Sturgis than T, even with the
Oh,
long
I
trip.
agree with that, yeah.
No, T stinks. T
plays good defense, and Watertown doesn't score at an elite level.
T's back. They got a backup quarterback in right now.
T plays defense.
T's lost 3 in a row. T has scored.
Watertown only won that game. They did not reach the end zone in that game.
And T played Washington in the last game. That was a mismatch there, but
T has scored 7 points in 3 consecutive games, and they're just not a team that scores many. I mean, they couldn't score much when they had their starting quarterback, Mitch Grant, and they're scoring even less with their backup quarterback. So I would say T. That's the kind of team that I would want to play. And Watertown beat Sturgis 2 weeks ago, 29-15 at the new Watertown turf, which I'm sure is just as good as the Wall turf. But now they have to travel out to Sturgis. Yeah, Yankton won. I think Huron is 2, Pierre is 3 in the seed points. The poll, which we've talked about a lot, Yankton ended up 1. Pierre was 2, Huron was 3. That was my poll for like the last 5 weeks, and we went back and forth on that. Do you like Brookings to beat Huron? I guess I do.
I think Huron will win, but it's going to be scary.
They've got, again...
I tend to think, in line with Marcus, they're just the team that loses that first matchup in these games that you immediately have to turn on and play again. The team that loses has more to kind of go on and make tweaks on, or if you're Brookings, you kind of have to now be in this spot where, Huron's certainly going to make adjustments. We kind of have to guess what adjustments they might make to try to stay ahead of them, and that's not always the easiest thing to do.
And we talked about the injury to Huron linebacker Ty Kleinsaucer. He's going to be out pretty much these entire playoffs. If Huron were to somehow make the dome, I'm sure he'll wrap it up and give it a go, but he's going to be out in this game. That was the difference with Brookings, and you got Tetzloff. You can just run a Wildcat with him if you need some yards if you're the Bobcats.
I didn't think about this, but yeah, now thinking about how if Brookings just runs the Wildcat with Bergen Tetzloff and thinking about Oakley Anderson tackling him, that's 2 people that are very different body types. Two terrific players, but one guy's 6'6" and 240 pounds, and the other one is 5'8" and probably like $160. That's a. I said last week I think Oakley Anderson is a fantastic linebacker and football player, but that just is an interesting visual in my head.
And didn't Huron have a crazy touchdown? It was like a 4th down
over the head. I was just.
They scored. That's one of their touchdowns. They scored on this ridiculous play. It was like 4th and 3 near the 10-yard line, and Anderson Porsche just throws it over his head to find an open receiver. So that was one of their scores, one of their 2 touchdowns. If you're Brookings, if we can take away the backwards blind pass, I think we can maybe hold them under 10.
Travis, my Huron defense is not as vigorous this week as it has been in the past.
They're not good.
I'm not going to say they stink. They haven't been as sharp here late. All the pressure is on them. Of any team in this playoff for 11 AA, it is. Boy, if it's a close game at half, close game in the second half, it's like, again, you had this great season. You don't want to go from 7-0 or 7-1 to out of the first round of the playoffs. And Yankton, the best team I saw this year, Yankton versus Spearfish, and they've got the advantageous route to the Dome, playing Spearfish this week and either Sturgis and Watertown the following week. It's good to be Yankton. Clearly.
It's good to be Yankton. So 11A, we have one undefeated team, Sioux Falls Christian. They get to play Rapid City Christian. That's a rematch. Madison West Central, they didn't play, Marcus. Why are these teams? I tried to look at the last time they didn't play. I couldn't find it. They played forever. Why they weren't playing this year, I don't know.
This is 2 years in a row now in the regular season they haven't played. Yeah. They did play in the playoffs last year.
Yes.
So we said the same thing last year, 35 miles apart, and they are going to play in the postseason here.
And then the 2 years before that, we said, why is West Central not playing Del Rapids?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they ultimately played in the Dome.
And so that game last year was at West Central. West Central won. This year it's at Madison. I have a feeling Madison's going to win because they're at home. Mm-hmm. I expect it to be a super close ball game.
Lennox, all of a sudden, maybe the hot team again. Lennox with some good wins here at the end of the regular season, and they're the 3 seed. And Sioux Falls Christian, big favorite in 11A, but we could be primed for a Charger-Oriole rematch.
That's what I would pick. I think Lennox is the best team in the bottom half of that bracket. They did just beat Del Rapids. I think they kind of proved that maybe they're the second best team, even though they didn't get the number 2 seed. This year, I don't see anybody beating Sioux Falls Christian.
Yeah, that motivation factor of losing last year, we talked about it with Avon. There's a couple other teams you could apply that to. Yeah, but Avon, Sioux Falls Christian losers last year. And then in AAA, once we had, it's going to be Lincoln and Brandon Valley, and we were just kind of waiting. All of a sudden, Brandon Valley loses to Jefferson last week, 24-21. And then Harrisburg loses to Lincoln in a defensive battle, 56-49, without a shot clock. So all of a sudden, if you get some matchups like that, those teams aren't going to match up. Those Week 9 matchups, they can't meet until the Dome. But Brandon Valley and Sioux Falls Lincoln, not quite the shoe-in, still the favorites, but not quite the automatic, no doubt about it, championship game. We'll probably have to wait until next week. We will wait until next week for them to be tested, but it kind of opens up AAA a little bit. Yeah,
this class got a lot more interesting. I think there's a couple still really good games, games we've seen plenty.
Guess what, Marcus? O'Gorman plays Harrisburg. Son of a gun. Who would have thought?
They did not play in the playoffs last year. I thought they did, but they did not. I looked that up.
Dreamt about it.
I dreamt it in my dreams. And but they do play each other here in the first round. And Jefferson, Washington could be a very interesting game. Washington has been a tough opponent this season. So those are the 2 games to watch, I think, in this first round. And then I think the semifinals next week could be spectacular.
I thought it was interesting. I did not have this in my memory bank. I remembered in the semifinals last year.
Your memory credit union?
I did remember that Brandon Valley had to go, I think, to overtime to beat Jefferson by a field goal. I did not remember that Harrisburg played Lincoln in a low-scoring game and only lost by 6.
Yeah.
So both those teams had one-score semifinals en route to the Dome a year ago. I tend to think right now, to your point, I think we could see the same thing this year, and it would just be reverse pairings in terms of the one-score games in the semifinals. But I think Jefferson just has a good matchup against Brandon Valley.
Not so much versus Lincoln, maybe.
And maybe not so much against Lincoln. I mean, they pushed Lincoln for 3 quarters, but then Lincoln really took it to them in that 4th quarter when they matched up earlier this season. And the same thing, Harrisburg can score on Lincoln. Maybe can't stop them from scoring, but can score with them. I mean, Harrisburg didn't score a point against Brandon Valley, I don't think, a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm not convinced right now that the Tigers and Cavaliers are as good a matchups in the reverse.
They're on the wrong side of the bracket.
So yeah, I don't know that I would expect the semifinals to be super duper close, but I'd be happy to be proven wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that the matchup between Brandon and Lincoln does feel a bit inevitable to me.
I think much like the 11AA bracket, there's no question the top side, Brandon Valley's half, is the better half to be on because they have played well against Harrisburg and O'Gorman. The O'Gorman game was a long time ago. As Landon just said, they beat Harrisburg a couple weeks ago, 24-0. So I think Brandon Valley, a team that we believe is getting healthier as well, maybe closer to some of that personnel they had earlier in the season, that could be a big difference. And I do think we'll see the Lynx in the championship game. And I also think the way Lincoln is scoring right now, boy, I'm not sure Brandon Valley can even stop them. We'll see. But that I expect to see Lynx Patriots one more time.
Coverage tonight, where will folks be going?
How do you want me to handle this?
You're back already.
One of my games is in the past.
That's right. Where did you go, Marcus?
I went to Del Rapids, St. Mary, Corsica, Stickney, and then still have Elkton Lake, Benton, Hanson tonight. So maybe by the time you hear this, I'm in transit.
All right. So and Landon,
I'll be in Parkston.
All right, Parkston.
For Bonham, Parkston.
Bonham and Parkston. Mitchell. It was very interesting. So Travis, we've talked before about how we got a little bit bigger coverage area to try to keep an eye on, but only 3 games in our territory that were home games tonight.
Yes.
Parkston was home, Avon was home, Freeman was home. Everybody else is on the road. I don't remember that. And normally you got Winter at home. Normally you got Howard at home. Normally you got another 11B team at home. And Woonsocket Weston Springs got beat last week, so they're out of it. And very strange here in the quarterfinals to not have as many home games amongst our area teams.
10 area teams left, 11 if you count Winter. There's only 3 at home this week. And if the high seeds win, the only ones that would be at home for a semifinal game would be Freeman next week and Avon.
And Avon, yep.
Barring any upsets, Parkston's going to be at Elkton Lake Benton, or they would host Hanson. And you got Howard is a 6, or Howard is a 7, Platt is a 6. If those teams win, they might be on the road next week. So, yeah, kind of strange that, who knows, winner at MVP. I doubt it, but, winner.
I'd love that 10 miles
That'd
away.
be wild.
I'd love that, but I don't think it's going to happen.
7-11. So,
if that happens, Mount Vernon Plankton's got a legit chance to make the Dakota
I'm
Dome.
sure both teams are like, yes, we want this matchup.
I did not think that was possible 4 weeks ago.
No.
So
That would be like shades of, was that 2022 maybe? Where that one of the semifinals was 7 seed Bridgewater Emory Ethan against 14 seed Beersford.
yeah, yep.
And
We had the
quarterfinal.
1 year where it was Canastota, Freeman, and Platte Geddes, and that was
In the final,
Yeah.
and that was 9 versus 11.
yeah, that was
Yep.
crazy.
Quarterfinal round, semis. We'll get back to Friday night football coming up next week. Mitchell volleyball coming up next. Mitchell continues to roll. They've won 9 of 10. Only loss was last week at Aberdeen, and they're the 7th seed right now, and there's a lot to be decided in these final 3 matches of the season. And if you assume Mitchell loses both of their matches next week because they play Brandon Valley next week at Brandon on Tuesday, Brandon Valley's 22-3 on the year. They play number 2 ranked O'Gorman next Thursday night in the regular season finale. O'Gorman is at 21-4. So if you pencil those in for losses, it made the Mitchell win at Huron Tuesday night a necessity to be a top 8 seed. If they lose that, you can pretty much kiss that goodbye. Washington, 13-7, not as good as they have been. Washington is usually up there in that 2 seed, in that 3 seed conversation. As of now, Washington would have to travel to Aberdeen in an 8-9 matchup in the Sodak 16, and very tightly contested all the way from 5 down to 9 and 10. A lot to be decided here because home court may be very important because there's a big difference in St. and Sioux Falls or going to Aberdeen. Spearfish has a 10 seed. Spearfish is still in the mix for an 8. Nobody wants to go out there. So I don't know if Mitchell wins tonight. It'd be one of their better wins of the season if they could beat Washington. They haven't done that since 2017. But if Mitchell wins tonight, I think they're staying at home in the Sodak 16.
As you mentioned, and what we've talked about before, home court very valuable in the Sodak 16. Teams overall win 84%. The higher seeded teams win these games.
So Marcus Traxler stat, nobody else has that.
Class
stat.
AA in the history of the Sodak 16, 60-4. The home team. So you need to be at home if you can. I was impressed with just Mitchell getting the sweep, like we've talked about. They have a propensity to play 4 5-set matches when it's maybe they are the better team, and so they were the better team against Huron. I agree with you. This would be a great win to get if they're able to top Washington, a team that has regularly been a top 3 seed in the past. Be nice to get a victory here. And then see what happens next week against 2 really good teams, and maybe you're able to be competitive with them.
Washington, similar to Huron, not very good against plus 500 teams. They're only 1-6 this year against the good teams, over 500. And Huron had a similar mark. They're like 1-8, 1-9 versus plus 500 teams. So Mitchell at 15-5. You would almost expect them to be better than a 7 seed, but they're not. It's kind of weird to have the team 15-5, and you've beaten Watertown and you've beaten Stevens. But you're behind them a little bit in seed points, probably not catching them. But they've got a couple good wins, but it's a fight for the 8 seed.
Yeah, all that matters is that they're in the top half. And I mean, if I'm being honest, if you're potentially looking at the state tournament, you want to be a 6 or a 7. You really would not like to be an 8 or a 9 and potentially have to play Harrisburg in that first round of the state tournament.
You want to play Spearfish in the Sodak 16. That is the matchup for whoever matches up with Spearfish. That is the team that you want to play in that Sodak 16. World Series could end tomorrow night. At the latest, it'll end Saturday. Blue Jays up 3-2. Dodgers hanging by a thread. They needed that 18-inning game on, was that Monday night? So was it Tuesday?
Monday night.
It was Monday night into Tuesday morning, 18 innings. But the Blue Jays, they've looked good. It's been their offense versus the Dodgers starting pitching, and it's the 2 strengths of both of these teams, Landon, and the Blue Jays hitting has been much better than the Dodgers pitching more times than not.
Yeah, except for the 9 extra innings, maybe on Monday night, Tuesday morning.
And we've seen this Dodgers offense not look very good at times.
Mookie Betts said it. I haven't been very good.
Been good all year.
Yeah.
Outside of Ohtani, Freddie Freeman had a game winner in the 18th, but outside of Ohtani, there's been nobody doing much of anything.
That was maybe the most shocking part is, just so many times during those extra innings. I mean, was it 4 or 5 times? I think they intentionally walked
Five
Ohtani
Yep.
in the extra innings, and they didn't make him pay for it ever because, I mean, it's a interesting place to be in where, okay, you're walking probably the best hitter in the world to get to, one of the next 5 best hitters in the world. And just Mookie Betts hasn't been quite himself. I think Freddie Freeman's been all right.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that is because obviously he's bolstered by the fact that he hit the walk-off home run. But this Dodgers team, it makes me I'm seeing them now, and it makes me even more sad that the Brewers lost to them in the CS. But I think Toronto's just better.
They're better.
And I know that's maybe hard for people to understand because this Dodgers team was supposed to be the team that ruined baseball, but this Toronto team's really good. I don't know what else to say.
They are the team that ruined baseball, but it doesn't matter because Trey is savage. He was lights out in Game 5, 12 strikeouts as a guy who I think was pitching single A ball earlier this year.
They called him up September 15th.
Yeah, and he's got 3 wins here in the postseason. I was most impressed that Toronto lost that game on Monday night and has rebounded and got 2 more wins in LA to bring this series back to Sky Dome.
It is the
old
Sky Dome.
For Game 6 and a chance to potentially send the World Series trophy back across the border. They haven't won a Stanley Cup in damn near 40 years, but they are going to have the
Did Montreal win it in 93 as well? Is that what I remember?
That sounds right.
Maybe. So 90, the year of get on Montreal here.
Yeah.
Yoshi
Maybe you were
Yamamoto.
going to say you watched the Who Killed the Montreal Expos documentary.
No, I didn't watch it. Is that good?
I haven't watched it yet, but I heard it's really good.
Couldn't say.
Couldn't say.
I heard there's a lot of French speaking in it, so you got to watch it with subtitles.
Wee. Yamamoto, Dodgers starting pitcher, starts Game 6 against Kevin Gausman. Back-to-back complete games for Yamamoto. We didn't have a complete game in the playoffs for 8 years, and then he goes back-to-back against the Brewers and Blue Jays. So, I mean, if you're the Dodgers, you're banking on him to maybe not give you 9 innings, but maybe 7 good ones because, that bullpen's got to be kind of tired right now, and you're hoping you get some offense because this offense, none too good. So maybe it would be fun to have a Game 7, but I'd be fine with Toronto wrapping this up in 6.
Well, I mean, that atmosphere is going to be electric. Well, whether it's just one game or both, obviously those fans up there love the Blue Jays, and they're going to be jazzed to potentially be able to clinch it on their home field.
What will the exchange rate in the decibel meter be? U.S. to Canadian?
Is it less? Is it more?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Is it louder? Is it quieter?
Yeah.
The sound bouncing off the CN Tower and back down to...
And from the Blue Jays were down 2-0 versus Seattle. And they come back in that series tied at 2 and win in 7. And, Dodgers, they'll be the favorite, odds-on favorite to win it next year, and they've got the big payroll. But, I never picked the Dodgers to win it because they usually don't. When are people going to say, hey, this team doesn't win the World Series? They won it last year. That's it.
What was the stat? I think you were the one who offered it last week, right? Where no team that's ever swept.
It's the team that goes 7 in the LCS always beats the team that's swept, and we're very likely to have it again.
That's crazy.
Let's pick Blue Jays. We pick Blue Jays. Go Blue Jays. This would be 5 times the team that goes 7 in the LCS beats the team that won 4-0 in the LCS, so that could happen again. I guess this is a longer conversation for another time with the Dodgers because people don't like teams that spend money.
Save it for the hot stove.
Yes. What should their payroll be then? It's $400-500 million. What do people want it to be?
If the rules are going to be this way, somebody's going to spend a ton of money. The Mets have. I don't know exactly how high theirs is, but the
Blue Jays do not. The Blue Jays are I have a top 5 payroll.
Yeah,
Nobody complains about the Blue Jays spending $300 million.
It was between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays for Ohtani, right?
Yes.
It's these are not 2 small market teams.
I want to share a graph later on here in the offseason. The revenue these teams bring in and how much of that revenue you then spend on the payroll. The Twins are right around 47%.
The Twins are spending like they're still in the Metrodome. Per capita, they're spending as much as they spent when they were in the Metrodome. And think about how much more money they make at Target Field now.
They're the Twins, it's not unreasonable. The Twins, they should have a $250 million payroll. It should be $100 million more than it is.
But the poll ads need the money.
They need the money because they're poor. So you bring in, how much money should you pocket? If you bring in $350, should you have a $200 million payroll? Should it be $250? Should it be $300? Like, there's no reason why, like, you know, if you're the teams on the lower rung, like the White Sox or the Marlins, you look at they are still bringing in a couple $100 million. It's not unreasonable for them to say, hey, you should be having a payroll of about $150. Well, I mean, it shouldn't be like $70.
I feel like we've talked about this in this light before, but it's just clear that there's a divide of, you know, ownership that is treating their baseball team like a baseball team, and ownership that is treating their baseball team like a business,
like an ATM. Like all that matters is how much money I can take out of this thing.
There's one model that maximizes profits, and there's one model that maximizes, you know, like productivity on the field. Yeah, and
that's why baseball ain't happening in 2027, because there's gonna be a lockout.
Are you gonna miss $50 million if you're these owners? Oh, if my payroll goes up 50.
Yeah, if you're
not the Polad,
if you're a millionaire and not a billionaire, then yeah, you are gonna miss it.
Are you gonna miss $50 million? I mean, how much is Magic Johnson paying for this Dodgers?
How much is Magic Johnson paying the guy who tweets for him?
Stupid. So, World Series Game 6 on Friday night. Any final thoughts? You got college basketball starts Monday. I don't know if you
Travis, I covered my first college basketball game of the season on.
That's true.
On Tuesday night. It's not even Halloween yet. What is this?
Allegedly.
I couldn't believe it.
No, he was there.
What did you see? What did you see? Where were you at?
I was at the Palace.
What happened? Who did what?
DW over Grandview.
Yes,
and
the men.
89, 84.
And Travis, DW might be a decent team this year. Time will tell. They are not a big team. Size not really happening.
Almost verbatim what Coach Sam Nicholson told me. It's going to be a sprint to about 90 points every night because they don't start anybody over 6'4".
Steele Morgan is their tallest guy?
Steele Morgan and Anthony Riggins are both 6'4", I think, and those are their 4 and their 5.
The problem is the good thing is everybody else in the GPAC lost guys too. The bad thing is everybody else in the GPAC likes to play like this too. So it's just going to be, it could be a shootout every time.
Former Mitchell Colonel, great 6th grader Easton Newendorf on this team. So
big.
He starts.
That's important. He starts.
Yeah, as a freshman.
They need him. So
how are the new seats? People like the new seats?
I did not.
Have you tested the new seats yet? Have you tested them?
I have not sat in them.
This is a seat?
No, I sit on the floor and take pictures. That's unfortunate. My seat's not quite as comfortable.
Maybe it is.
Maybe. I guess that's true. I haven't tested.
And we'll talk about this in December, but we won't really be at the Corn Palace a whole hell of a lot compared to previous years.
Yeah.
Because this Mitchell team, Mitchell basketball team, apparently playing at the new gym pretty much every game.
I think there's like 4 or 5 dates, 3 dates, whatever it is.
Oof.
that
really?
Yeah.
They're the doubleheader, the Stevens Central, that second weekend, that's at the Corn Palace. There's one other one. The Huron games are at the Pentagon for the next couple of years. I guess the Hoop City Classic at the end of December, they'll be at the Corn Palace. Other than that, everything else at the new high school, which I'm sure some people like it. I don't, but we'll discuss later.
It'll be different.
Yeah. Anything else, Landon, Marcus? I was going to say I like the symmetry of college basketball starts Monday. Division I college basketball starts Monday. Baseball's going to end Friday or Saturday. And then you go to the Final Four, first Monday of April, and the baseball season's like 4 days in, and college basketball starts, and then baseball picks up. You could be a baseball fan, a college basketball fan, and that's without
sustains you the whole year.
Without any overlap, that could sustain your whole life.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting to think about. I'm really loving college football right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did you guys sit down in front of? Well, you didn't.
Like last week,
you were busy, but I don't know. I still thought last weekend was fine.
I didn't see a single good game last week between the Vikings, Gophers, Jackrabbits. I didn't see a single good game. So
I still look. We got 4 weeks to go, 4 games left. If you got 2 losses, you're still in the mix here. I'm looking at those 2-loss teams and their schedule and who could maybe come up. I mean, Nebraska is a 2-loss team.
I forgot who said it, but I saw a post talking about how the ACC holds the keys to this playoff.
Jesus, I mean, you would think,
because if they all went out, they could have 2-3 teams in there. Or if they lose off, it could just be the one. So
of course, I listened to Joel Klatt a lot, and he predicted his bracket, and the last spot came down to it was between Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Texas Tech. I think we're the like.
So who's winning the Big 12 then? BYU. Yeah,
maybe it was opposite. Maybe it was BYU and
feels like
Texas Tech was in. BYU was the
second year of the 12-team playoff. There's feel like there's going to be Alabama was left out last year. I feel like there's going to be one team left out this year that you're like, not that they should be in, but it's like we went 11-1. What the hell else do you want us to do?
Well, it's going to be I'm just so interested for these first, especially the first one. I think it'll give you a good temperature check. Where's Notre Dame?
Is that this week?
Yeah,
I think it is
this upcoming Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they should be in.
Just because, I mean, other than their 2 losses, they haven't played anybody great. No. But those 2 losses are to potentially like the 2 and the 5, 6, 7 seed.
Like you look at the ACC, got Miami, Georgia Tech right now would be your favorites. Do they both get in at the moment? Do they, I think like Georgia Tech benefits. They don't got to play a lot of these top ACC teams.
See, but the raw part of the deal for Georgia Tech potentially is they have to play that non-con game against Georgia.
If they lose their last 2 to Georgia, Miami, they're out.
They're out.
They go 11-0 and lose their last 2. Mm-hmm. Hello, Huron. Hello, Woonsocket. That's
exactly what Mr. Clapp was pointing at. Is just like
stinkers.
It's a lot of that last couple, or that last ranking is a lot of what have you done for me lately? And if they go
that's rough.
Lose to Georgia, which isn't obviously a conference game, and then lose, they could be an undefeated team in conference and lose 1 game to Miami in the conference title game, and they'd be out.
As we've talked about before,
maybe
we definitely talked about it last year. I think the conference, the ratings should lock before the conference title game and only being decided as the automatic bids. Because otherwise, why are teams that aren't playing potentially improving their standing and moving up? Because another team like Georgia Tech potentially could lose and fall out of it. So we're 6 weeks out, and I can already foretell.
I don't know if I would say lock, but I think like you shouldn't be able to fall.
Don't penalize.
Like if a team like a underdog team, so like if
sure.
I don't know, whoever has to play Ohio State. If Indiana beats Ohio State, Indiana should be able to leap Ohio State.
Well, if you want to change the seeding, that's fine. But the teams that are in at the point of before the conference title game, they should not really be changed. Nobody that isn't playing should be jumping in to that field.
I see what you're saying.
Because they were sitting on the sideline and Georgia Tech lost when they were playing on conference title weekend.
I guess, yeah. I see what you're saying now.
Like Washington still has 2 losses. They've got a favorable schedule. They got Oregon at the end of the year. They got next 3 weeks for Washington.
Another big thing, and again, I wish I was more original on this, but I tend to agree. It'll be interesting to see if the committee follows what the AP has done a lot, or if they correctly value the fact that the upper middle of the Big Ten is still pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
When you got
a lot of people are crapping on it, but
when you got teams like Washington, and I mean it hasn't been pretty,
like
but Iowa
6-2.
Like they beat Oregon in 2 weeks because Oregon's got to go in there. All of a sudden they got 2 losses, and it's like between Iowa and Oregon, what are you going to? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of these, I think you're going to see a lot of the upper middle of the Big Ten in spots 15 through 25.
Like, will the Big 12 ever get more than 1 team in?
This would seem to be the year where they might have a chance to get 2. But
are you going to take a 5th SEC team, or are you going to take a 2nd Big 12?
I don't know.
I think it would. I don't know if the Big 12 can. I think the Big 12 could have if Texas Tech was still undefeated.
You need one of these you need BYU to go undefeated. You need Texas Tech to be a 1-loss team. You need these teams to not be 10-2.
Potentially, if it's being like if there was a scenario where Tech was undefeated entering the Big 12 title game, and then BYU beat them to get the auto bid, I think Tech would still be in. But now that Tech has 1 loss, I don't know.
They're not getting in with 2.
I don't know if BYU could survive losing in the Big 12 title game and still get in. I just don't know if they have like the staying power, so to speak.
And the group of 5 position is it's an exciting race. You got BYU just kind of hanging out there saying, if nobody wants it, we'll take it. Because you had Memphis beat South Florida last week. You got Memphis Tulane coming up.
Not BYU.
Or Memphis beat South Florida.
Yeah.
So you got South Florida, Tulane, and Memphis. These 3 teams, they're all playing each other in the American.
And lurking in the shadows, the
James Madison Dukes.
Yeah, they got a great chance at it.
They are so fun to watch. I don't know if they have a great chance of beating whoever they play. I mean, I don't know if any of these teams really would, but I think it'd be really, really fun to see James Madison make it, just because they're electric. They are absolutely electric.
A lot to be decided. Week 10 college football coming up. Corner Booth Podcast. Again, listen back to it, Spotify, iTunes, or here on the air, KORN Radio, FM 101.3, AM 1490. It's brought to you all season long. Into next year, we'll have basketball. We'll go all year. It's brought to you by Jimmy John's, James Valley Landscape Solutions, and Marlin's Family Restaurants.
Podcast.